Hey, fam, and welcome back to the tripod. It's your co hosts, Heidi, Heather, and Hope. And today we're here really just to summarize season two. I know in the season we talked about what it's like to grow up in a big family and what it's like to try to navigate growing up in a big family. And so today, really, we're just going to share some of what we learned from talking to our siblings. Having said that, guys, let's get started. Who wants to
Hey,
start? Hope, Heather, you guys want to tell us what you learned about talking to our sisters and brothers this season?
Hopi, why don't you kick it off?
Yes, I will go ahead and kick it off. First of all, hello, Heidi. Hello, Heather. Hope you're both
Hello.
Hello.
doing
Hello. Hello.
okay. Yeah,
Hello.
I guess if I were to summarize the interviews that we did, there were a few things I think I learned. Number one is that everyone seems to have really enjoyed growing up in a large family, in a large family unit, probably because, there was a feeling of belonging and connection.
Yeah.
I know that for me, that's true. I enjoyed growing up in a large family just because there were always people around. So there was never a sense of loneliness. Um, the second thing I
So
would
can I
say,
stop you for a minute?
yeah, please.
So, having said that, did you get the same sort of, um, you know, take given what we talked to our siblings about, what Hope is saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, when asked what it was like for everybody growing up, everybody sort of cited, the fact that we were really never alone at home, right? You were always blessed to be amongst a lot of people. And I think, everybody cited loving, the family dinners that we did, on Saturday nights. Everybody would gather for franks and beans and maybe a little brown bread too, but then Sunday dinners as well, right? Because it was always this place to kind of come and connect, and you had like a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
right? You could always come and somebody was always there, and you were always welcome. So yes, absolutely. Did you
Okay.
get
What
the
about
same
you, Hyde?
thing?
Did you feel the same?
Yeah, definitely. When I said, "Had did you get the same take?" I meant a takeaway. So, yes, that was a
No?
certain absolute takeaway from the conversations that we had with them for sure. And I loved hearing, their experiences. And also, I think it resonated with all of us because we also loved Saturday nights and Sunday, gatherings too. So, anyway, just wanted to check in with you, had to see if what Hope was saying resonated with you. So, sounds like it did.
Oh, absolutely.
And also, I think the mayhem of the holidays, right? There were just so many people around. So, yeah, I think all of those things collectively are really nice memories for all of us.
Mhm.
The
Did you ever feel overwhelmed by the mayhem, or did you just enjoy it?
I mean, for me personally, I loved every minute of it. I never really felt like it was mayhem. I just felt like it was the experience of family.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Um,
And I think I didn't mean mayhem in a bad way. There wasn't a negative comment connotation
No,
there.
no, no, just busy.
I didn't
That's
think
all I meant too. I meant it just from a busy kind of chaotic because there were so many people around all the time and everybody's sort of going in different directions and you're trying to find a seat at the table and with the adult table and the kids table and there was a lot of conversation going on.
Yeah, I tend to think it's so funny when I talk to folks that have or come from large families. One thing that I think I found that I share in common is the concept, the concept of the kids table versus the adult table, which I think is super funny. And being excited to graduate to
yeah,
the
right.
adult table.
Did we ever graduate to the adult table?
I don't know. I think
I'm
there were
not
just too many
sure.
of us. We
Yeah.
probably always just
I don't
preferred
think we had enough space.
the
Or maybe like we pulled up chairs when we got to be older, like so we could sort of say, okay, even if there's no room, like make room for us. I don't know.
No, we did. We definitely did. Because remember the time that I got in trouble for feeding the dog under the table? Do you guys remember that?
I
I mean, I think probably because I know you remember it. I don't have a crystal clear
don't.
image in my
It's just
head.
it's a funny memory for me because I happened to be sitting next to dad at the adult table and it was a Saturday night dinner and again dad was like very strict about if you take food you need to eat food and I wasn't hungry and we were having hot dogs, and I was feeding the dog under the table, and Dad caught me.
Which dog was it, Hev? Corky or J. Edgar?
That's a great question.
Couldn't have been Tiki.
Well, it couldn't have been Tiki, who's still at the farm, I'm sure. I don't
Was
remember. I don't. Maybe it was Jay. Maybe it was Jay. But Dad immediately sent me to my bedroom, and you guys actually left the table and came upstairs with me. You weren't
Oh,
punished.
in solidarity.
Oh, there,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was solidarity. You weren't punished, but you guys left and came upstairs, so I wasn't alone.
We felt
That's
bad for you.
Yeah,
that's so cute. That's a cute story. I had forgotten that, Heather. That thanks for reminding
yeah.
us of
So,
that.
so just to the point, Hyde, we did ultimately, I think, graduate or pull up chairs to the adult table.
Made it.
Yeah,
What
I
else?
think the other like another thing I learned, and I don't know if I was surprised by this. I think I was surprised by this, that the older siblings in our family all felt like Ed was really like a second father.
Mhm.
I think I knew that, you know, he spent a lot of time with Mark and Keith and Vin, the boys, our brothers. But to hear Deb and Pam also say that Ed was really good to them, Ed was, you know, super great to mom. And I knew he was always very good to mom. I know he and mom were close. But I think I didn't realize that they all really truly felt that close to Ed, and that he really was like a second father and around more than dad. Um, I don't know that I knew that. So that was a learning for me. Did you guys feel the same or?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely was surprised by that as well. My impression before we had the interviews were like primarily that he was closer to the boys. So to hear some of our older, sisters say that's the kind of relationship they had with him, or that's the way that they thought about him was surprising to me. So yeah. What about you, Had?
Yeah, I would say it was surprising, but it also, I think the thing that was somewhat a little bit more surprising to me, because I've heard some stories from our siblings in the past about their relationships with dad. And I think what was really surprising was the fact that a lot of our older siblings didn't really feel like they had much of a relationship with dad or an emotional relationship with dad. Dad was there to provide. So from the, aspect of Ed and the relationship that he had with our siblings, it makes me happy for our older siblings that they actually had somebody, in their life who was able to help them through different situations and or provide, experiences to them if dad wasn't around much.
Yeah,
Because
kind of.
were you guys surprised by the commentary around dad?
Hope, you want to take
Go
that?
ahead, Heidi. You look like you're about to say something, and then I'll jump in.
No, I was just going to say, like, so for Ed, it was more like filling in the gap, right? Like
Yeah.
of his absence. But I mean, I don't think it was necessarily surprising, because I just think about like our position in the family system. We were, 8, 9, and 10. And the experience that I'll speak for myself that I had with dad was that, he was working a lot. And if he wasn't working, he was spending a lot of time in some of the organizations that he was involved in. Like I call them extracurricular kind of
Mhm.
activities
Yeah.
that kept him away from being more at home and so kind of more present. I think to me, and you guys probably feel the same way, it wasn't really until he retired that I felt like he was more present and we had more access to him. And so if we were 8, 9, and 10 in the family, I imagine that that was the same exact experience that our older siblings had had as well. And in part, it was he had 10 mouths to feed. It was traditional gender role. Mom was stay-at-home mom, so she had tons of work inside the home, caring for everybody, meeting the demands of 10 children, raising them. And dad was the breadwinner. So yeah, so in that sense, like it's not surprising because that was pretty much the experience that I know I had. And I'm glad that, they had more. of um, an opportunity to connect to another male figure that was mom's brother. When we were the age that we were when Ed was around, he wasn't as young. Um, he wasn't as active as he had been with the older siblings growing up. So we just had a different experience of him, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even though we had a different experience with him, I think he was always pretty present, right? Just he would come for dinner. He
Yeah.
would come and beep his horn every night for one of us to go and help assist uh, with things that he needed to get at the store and things like that. So,
And
I mean,
candy. Don't remember 25 cents worth of candy every night.
well, that was a reward, right? For going to the store with them, he would circle back to Mandy's or some other little candy shop, and we'd get our 25 cents and get an entire bag of candy, which I don't even think you can buy one piece of candy. Like, I don't even think you can get one Swedish fish for 25 cents anymore.
I
Um,
know.
but I think Ed was around in our lives. Dad predeceased him. So that's another thing. But I also think when I think about dad, so Heather, like in to your comment and to just kind of jump in on what you were saying, Hyde, I totally think for dad, with everyone in our family, including us, um, he viewed the family unit. He was the kind of the breadwinner. Mom was the homemaker, and they kind of played those roles. But I also saw dad. I'm going to speak for myself. I was a little afraid of dad. I felt like he was strict, and I felt like he was this authoritarian figure. Um, and I do feel like as he was getting ready to retire and post retirement, he softened a little bit,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I'm thankful for that because I think we got to see a softer side of dad relative to, what some of our older siblings would have experienced at the ages that we were when we saw it versus, what they saw.
Mm.
Um, so
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think, dad probably softened a little bit, again, because to both your points, he had retired and he was more present for us. He was able to, come to some of our athletic games. Um, but maybe also too, like the financial responsibility had lessened a little bit because our siblings were older and many of them were out of the house and working, et cetera. So he wasn't maybe as stressed out financially as I think he probably was during the course of, our lives and certainly our older siblings' lives. Because I think all of us can, the notion of being financially responsible. We've all been, working parents at different periods of time, right? And there's certainly responsibility that comes with raising a family,
And
right? And
stress,
so
lots of stress.
yeah, a lot of stress. And I really like I think about dad a lot. If I put myself in his shoes, um, I suspect he was probably pretty stressed out every day. Again, because it goes to the notion of trying to, house 10 children, feed 10 children, et cetera. And then you have, certainly other expenses that come with just running a household.
Yeah, and I think maybe I don't know this, and I don't know that we'll ever know it because he's not here anymore, but I suspect sometimes that his involvement in the extracurriculars were sort of an escape. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just, if he was stressed all the time
Mm-hmm.
because of the responsibilities that he had, maybe it was just a nice way for him to, I don't know, not have to think about the responsibilities that he had at home.
Maybe like an escape for a little while.
An escape for a little while, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe his self medication was to be part of these organizations. Um,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
you think about mom on the other side of it, right? Like mom didn't really have an escape.
Right. Yeah. I
Zero.
mean, it's
Zero
layered,
escape.
right? It's definitely a layered
It's layered.
conversation to have,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because, there's on one side the ability to understand some of the choices and involvement outside of family system, but then, you know, on the other side, it's, well, mom was home and mom didn't really have tons of outlets. Like, she kind of permitted dad to have. So, yeah. But again, part of it's cultural too. I mean, that's just the age that they grew up in, and those were
Yep.
some of the
The norms,
expectations they had around,
Traditional
what a
marriage.
great marriage meant.
be a husband and be a wife. So things have changed a lot since 1969
Yep.
in that regard. So
Yep.
anyway,
Yep.
anything else, Hope, about the family that you
Yeah,
learned?
I mean, I think I think the next one's a little um I don't want to say complicated. I just have been sitting with it for a while, which is even after all of the interviews with our siblings, it just made me realize how little I know about, our family history. And what I mean by that is, yes, I mean, I know about mom and dad based on the years that we had them, but
Experientially, yeah.
yeah, so like the experiences that we had when they were a part of our lives, now at this point, they've been out of our lives way longer than they were ever in our lives.
Right.
And at the ages that we were when we experienced them, we weren't able to have these adult conversations with them and ask them a ton about, tell me about your childhood and tell me it was like growing up in your family, and tell me what your mom was like and tell me what your dad was like. I didn't have those conversations with them, and I think we can have those conversations with siblings, but the answers back, while helpful, are their experience of their experiences with those people. um, and so, like, I kind of just left some of the conversations feeling grateful that I learned more about family history, but I also left feeling, you know, maybe a little bit, I don't want to say sad, but just I'm left wondering more about what our grandparents' experiences were, what our parents' experiences really were, what their lives were like. And so
Like a connection to that.
a connection, because I'll give you an example. So dad was a big, he was part of the American Legion. He was very proud of his involvement there. I had no idea that his mom, our great grandmother, was part of the American Legion until I until I read her wedding announcement yesterday when Vincent sent it to us.
Yeah.
It talks about her involvement in the American Legion, and I was like, wow, dad must have been introduced to the American Legion by his mother. And so it's little things like that that I don't have a lot of perspective on. I'm sort of rambling right now, but um,
No, it's kind of like, though, putting pieces of a puzzle together
pieces of a puzzle together. Thank
to
you.
have sort of the tapestry of where we come from sort of all come together, right? So you can see it like as a big picture and understand the different parts that contributed to it. And
Yeah,
when
and
you don't
even like
have
some of
those relationships, it's harder to have the information to fill in the gaps.
yeah, and so I think that's exactly right, Heidi. It's almost like even just qualities, like some of my qualities, some of your qualities, some of Heather's qualities, some of the things our kids all possess, like those traits, where do they come from? You know, Heather with Farrah and singing, I just found out Marguerite was a very good singer. She was theatrical, you know,
Yep.
things like that. Like, where do those traits come from that maybe I just never knew existed? And I still feel like, we never met our grandparents. And, it would have been wonderful to have the experience of meeting them at some point to just understand a little bit more of that tapestry, Heidi, that you just talked about.
Mhm.
So those are kind of the key things that I came away with. Um, what else would you
Yeah. Oh, I
say you
mean,
came away
you
with?
know, just to your point, though, I would just say that, certainly something that came through the family systems interviews was just a generational gap, right? I mean, to Heidi's point earlier, we were children, 8, 9, and 10 in our family, and there's a 20-year age difference between the three of us and our oldest sibling, Deb, right? So it's a timing thing, right? It's just that our older siblings got to experience, our parents when they were younger and they were, building a family. And unfortunately, by the time we were born, our parents were older and tired. And we were young, right? I mean, we were 13 when dad died, 22 when mom died. And I think at that time, we probably didn't know didn't have like history questions to answer, right?
Yeah,
Or to ask.
yeah, that's what I alluded to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you totally alluded to it. Like, if we could go back at this age and have conversations with our parents, they could fill in a lot of gaps for us in terms of, where we come from.
Mhm.
And again, we didn't know any of our grandparents. Unfortunately, our children didn't get to know our parents, their grandparents on our side of the family. And so, I think about it as, okay, well, I'm trying to teach our children about their grandparents. Um, but, again, I don't know a ton about our parents' history to impart to our children. So I just think it's, generational gaps in timing. Um,
Yeah, it makes me kind of thankful for what Vincent and like Pam and Deb spend time on in some of their freer time, like just trying to
Genealogy stuff, Heidi.
do ancestry.com. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love that Vincent sends us information that he's collected and ways to access it. And so I know for me, it's more or less just taking the time to educate myself about who these people are, where they came from, and to actually feel
The
a
connection.
connection
yeah.
to generations past, and really, to mom and dad, because Hope, I mean, to your point, like they've been dead so much longer than we experience them alive.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's just, a big disconnect in a lot of years of absence of, knowing them and like experiencing them and stuff like that. So,
But the one thing that's really interesting though too is that dad was very big into genealogy. He was very focused on it. And I don't know if you guys remember the genealogical society in Boston, but dad would go there a lot. And I remember being in the car with him one day when he was going in there. But I'm glad that Vincent has sort of, taken that task on and, tries to educate us or send us files of family history. And to your point, Heidi, it's really up to us to go through it. But I guess the one caveat there is that when you look through the genealogical files, it's a lot of facts, right? Like this person, was the parent of this person and they were born in this year and they died in this year.
yeah,
But there's not a lot of like specific information about, what
Textual.
their careers were and how many, we know how many children they have, but what do their children do? And,
all the
and
context.
that's the stuff that those are the missing pieces. I wish I had that, more of a connection like that.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said, dad was involved in the genealogical society, because, and do we remember? Because like how many times did we end
Prince.
up in cemeteries in like
Yeah.
remote
Okay.
places
All
of
right.
Maine, right? Or like in Newfoundland, look, like, okay. I mean,
Go
yes,
look for the gravestones of your ancestors.
exactly. And at the
I
time, I
know we
was
had to
like,
do that a lot.
okay. Yeah. So, but it seems like though dad was trying to fill in, the pieces of the puzzle,
Yeah.
because, I mean, I don't think he knew some of the people that came before him, right? I mean, uh,
Well, can I say
longevity,
this?
how long people lived, I mean, it's
Yeah.
changed over time. So,
To our listening community, if any of you spent any period of your youth rummaging through graveyards looking for ancestors, please send us an email. We'd love to share some stories.
yeah,
Yes, we
please
can
do.
empathize. Yes, for sure.
And, and, you know, it has to be that you were in the car and you listened to yacht rock or like dentist office music while you were going to the particular places to look for old gravestones and such. So,
As we
And in
traveled
some
across the
instances,
country for
yeah,
the American Legion conventions.
oh, those were awesome though. I had such a good time
they
doing that.
were awesome. They were so fun. Those
Mhm.
were our summer vacations.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Anything
still
else,
remember the
guys?
ice cream store in Texas.
Yes, at
I
Horn
think
Plenty.
the only other thing, I think I would say is it's just really interesting. Obviously, again, each of our siblings, completely different individuals, different experiences. Just would say super grateful that everybody shared their stories with us.
Yeah.
And
That's
what would you guys say, you know, as we think about um, moving forward and, you know, as we get older, right? Is it up to us to try and develop deeper relationships with our siblings?
Well, I mean, yeah, always, right? I mean, you have to be a friend to have a friend kind of thing. So,
I love
somebody's got,
that.
well,
I love
it's just
that.
true.
So true.
I
It's
mean,
so
no one's going to be like knocking on your door saying like, be my friend, right? Or let's have a relationship. You have to make a real commitment and intentionality of like, I want to know you. I'm making the just like the commitment to call you, if not once a week, like, once a month. Yeah, because our family's not really good at that. As we talked about on the podcast, it wouldn't be surprising to people that have listened to the I know you can laugh,
I
but
love it. I love it.
it
I love
wouldn't be
it.
surprising though, right? Like people heard us say there's a tendency in our family to sort of just kind of keep
Stay.
the family they're a part of, like this is my family and that's your family over there and that's your family. Not often are we all like trying to pull our families together. I guess we try to do that in Marblehead when we're the people that don't live in that radius have to like come there. But yeah, we all kind of just do our own things and it's probably a part of avoidant attachment. Um, just where basically we learned how to take care of ourselves and like we don't need any help. Thank you very much. And which most of our spouses would probably say, you guys are so stubborn, it's not easy for you to ask for help. I got this. We get upset when we actually do ask for help and it's not like an immediate response. We're like, well, why do we even bother asking for help in the first place? But like that's what I sort of thought as a common thread when we talk to,
Oh,
especially like our sisters.
Very
Our
true.
moms didn't really talk about that, but I was like, gosh, it's so true because we never really ask, and when we do, it's like, it's a big deal to ask, and we have this expectation that it's going to happen. I mean, Todd thinks I'm nuts. He's like, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm just not right now. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, fine. It's all right.
yeah.
You
The
know,
adjective that Jim would use to describe me would be stubborn, for sure.
yeah, yep. So, which is probably like more of a survival strategy developed
I
over
think
time,
so.
I'm imagining. But
I'll take care of myself. I'll do it. I don't need anybody to help me.
yeah,
I think again, like 100%, right? Like when you're in a large family, it's kind of like just you're out for yourself. Like you have to survive this
Well,
group.
it's like that sink or
Got to
swim
navigate. Yeah.
mentality, right? You have to stay above water.
yeah, right.
Well,
It's
and I
it,
think
it
I
just it goes back to that, like the lyric that I love in one of Taylor Swift's songs is right, like you're on your own, kid. You always have been. And again, I'm not saying that we were on our own because I'm really thankful and grateful for the brothers and sisters
totally.
that we had, the older ones that really really helped um, us to get some of the things that we needed that maybe dad and mom weren't available to give us, or we couldn't really get access to them because they were so busy like doing other things. So like so grateful for that. But at the same time, yeah, there's just this sort of internal fortitude, right? Like this, yeah, I've got to take care of me. I've got to, you know, figure out how to like survive without using survival terminology, if you will.
Yeah, I also think too. I mean, I know for me, I always felt like, especially with mom, I always felt like she had so much going on. She was doing all different chores and tasks all day long. The last thing I wanted to do was feel like I was a bother and asking her to help me do anything. So it might, I think for me, it's probably just a learned experience. Like I'm not, she's got so much on her plate. She doesn't need anything more to focus on. I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah, which is what kids do, right? They adapt and adjust to the environment. They watch what's going on. They don't want to be a source of tension. So yeah, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be an inconvenience. And so that doesn't mean that you take that thought system with you into your adult relationships. But a lot of time that's what happens. Like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to be an inconvenience or
I'll
whatever.
just take care of it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So back to your point, yes, it's important to, if you it's completely up to a person individually to create the kind of relationships they want in their family systems and outside their family systems. And if they're not really making effort, then probably their relationships aren't going to be many. It
Well,
takes,
I just say that because we've talked about, sort of communication historically, and you guys both live out of state, right? From the state we grew up in, Massachusetts. And you always joke about, sort of like if you're out of state, you're out of mind. Like no one makes really a huge effort to try and visit, right? If you're not local in this area. Um,
I'm not sure that I would see any siblings if I didn't go to Marblehead. I don't know how long it would be.
I'd come see you.
I know, of course.
yeah.
Uh, but you know what I'm saying, right, Hyde?
Oh,
Like, have
I
you
mean,
were in Marblehead and like it people come
100%.
there as opposed to people leaving to come see us.
Right. Um,
Because they just value the relationship so much, right? Like,
well,
Heidi,
it's your point, Hyde.
I really just have to come spend time with you.
You have to be a friend to have a friend.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
And so,
important, but as we sort of cycle back into this stage of our life, right? And it's, you're sort of projecting, what you want your life to look like, in the next however many years. What sort of relationships do you want to have with your siblings, right? Because I feel like we were all very blessed to grow up in a big family. There was a lot of happiness and great memories, that come from our youth. And, so grateful that, we had siblings to really help support us along the way, especially after mom and dad died. Um, and so, right, the notion of be a friend, to have a friend, I think becomes increasingly important.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think like we've talked about, and I think we'll explore this a little bit more in season 3, is, we came in, the three of us came into this world together. We were put into the same bucket as triplets for a good chunk of our earlier lives until we separated and went to college, even though Heidi and I went to college together. And then after college, we kind of all went our own ways to try and find our own identities. Like most people do when they get out of college, they leave and they go and they experience. Um, and so, as we're at this stage in our life, and as we're thinking about, you know, the next chapter, I think it's important for the three of us to explore, how we come back together, right? We've had these experiences independently. How do we come back to each other and start to prioritize and really make time for each other?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's just, we got to intentionally say, this is when we're spending time. This is where we're spending time. This is how long we're spending time,
Yep.
outside of the podcast and stuff
Yep.
like that.
And this is how we're spending time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Well, guys, anything else you want to add about things that, you know, surprised you, that you learned, that you wish you had learned? I mean, I'll save what I learned, to share after you both feel like you've shared everything you wanted to. So,
I think I've said kind of what I learned. So I'm good.
Yeah,
have
I think probably the same for me, Hyde. Um, again, I think the fact that there is a generation gap in our family. Obviously, I knew it, but it was really sort of interesting hearing some new stories about our siblings that I hadn't previously heard. And now I certainly know that our first 5 siblings all were born at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. So stuff like that I think was interesting for me. But I think to your points, there are these, I'd say, gaps in sort of what we know about our siblings. And I hope that in the future, I end up putting more effort into actually getting to know some of our siblings better, to be honest.
yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think for me, um, and I think again, this probably comes back to how much time I have spent trying to understand who I am and kind of like the way that I show up in the world, or what are some old ideas and beliefs that I have about myself based on having grown up in the family system that we grew up in, and like overcoming those ideas and those beliefs, like really trying to intentionally create space to be more self-aware and to do like work to like grow and change and, be different, healthier version of myself. Um, that I think, and I don't know if you guys would say this too, that there's, I think, like just a desire for our siblings to be open and talk about their experience, but I think that they were careful about the things that they shared or that they said. I don't know if, there was a part of them that just wanted to uh like kind of stay loyal to the um the memory of mom and dad, and maybe not say things that might have been upsetting to, other siblings listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe just like more vulnerability, I guess. But again, like if that's their experience, then that's their experience. And, you know, that's okay. Um, but yeah, so I think I would have loved to feel like when people talked about dad not being around and kind of being absent, maybe sort of emotional reality around that. And again, I get it's a podcast, and for any viewers that we have on the YouTube channel, hopefully there's some. But that, they're not going to like really put kind of family business out into a
Yeah.
public
Into the ether. Yeah.
space, if you will. So I appreciated that every single one of them, I mean, outside of one sibling, were willing to come on the podcast and talk about those sets of questions that we asked them individually. But yeah, like really
Good cog
thankful
in
and
the wheel.
grateful for that. And I did, I mean, I think all three of us feel like we learned something new about each one of them coming on. So that was good. But yeah, I just in general probably long to have connections with siblings that run deeper than sort of just, the surface. But that's okay too. Like, so anyway, that's all I have to say really.
Yeah, I mean, I think well said, Hyde, Um, yeah, nothing to add there. Um, what's funny?
I was just thinking, like, a lot of it is sort of like presenting facts about themselves versus,
Personal stuff going on in their
yeah,
lives. But
exactly.
again, you're not going to share that
No.
on on a platform that's viral. Whether our podcast is viral. One day, guys, keep the hope.
Exactly. Keep
That's
going.
right.
Yeah, but overall, I think, I mean, just a really, a super interesting way, even just as context and backdrop for who we are, just to have
Exactly.
a landscape of
Yeah,
our siblings to kind of understand that we all came from the same two parents, that we all experienced those two people differently
yeah,
based on where we fell in the family order. And then, of course, for the three of us, because we lost our parents when we were on a relative basis to the others a lot younger, just sort of our reality. And so I think interviewing them was a helpful way to just try and start to identify more. I mean, especially just more an understanding of what mom and dad were dealing with at different stages in their life through the eyes of each of our siblings.
yeah. And I also think too that like season two and like the willingness of our siblings to participate was so meaningful because of what we were talking about, like our family doesn't do a good job keeping in touch really with one another. At least maybe some connect, more than others, but just to actually have that time set aside
Yeah.
to make like an intentional connection with like Deb or Vincent or Mark or Keith or Pam or Steph, like that was really fun
Yeah, totally.
just to sort
So
of
fun.
create
And
that space to just, catch up.
it is, Heidi. I mean, that is so true. Because it was so fun and so easy. And I think part of it too is like when you guys are here in Marblehead and we're all, together, it's very difficult to sit down and have a meaningful conversation with anybody, right? Because there's usually a lot of people around
Hmm.
and you're just trying to manage, all the different conversations you're having. When you guys come specifically, you're trying to, sort of
Navigate
visit.
spending
You're,
time
you're,
with
you're trying to visit with everybody,
biological
you
family,
know?
so host,
Yeah,
extended family.
it makes it difficult. And actually, I mean, it was so nice to be able to have dedicated time and just sit with the three of us and have a conversation with our siblings. I mean, maybe as we move forward, that's something we do more often or consider more often.
Yeah, tripod fam, get ready for more time with the original Strout siblings.
Yes, if they're willing to
Whoop, whoop.
continue the
That's right.
conversation. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do
Exactly.
you guys have anything else to say about the season before I wrap it up?
No, I just really wanted to say thank you to our siblings who participated and really to the community of people that listen to us for, you know, just listening, I guess.
Well, it's also, but it's to the community of listeners as well, right? Hopefully some of, the stories that some of our siblings shared, hopefully there are things that they can relate to, um, as they think about their own families as well.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just I'm still needing to get the laughter out.
Laugh,
Well,
laugh, laugh. It's what it's all about.
yeah, I mean, I I concur with what you said. Just thank you. A huge thank you to our siblings for their willingness to participate, for their willingness and I guess not willingness, just for their love and their support. They've been so great about the three of us connecting through this podcast and to further create laughter, just hopefully if folks are listening to this and they like it, that they can tell friends because we need more listeners. So
Absolutely.
tripod fam, if you're listening, help us out, spread the word.
So I would just say we are so grateful to our siblings for participating and supporting, and to our fam. We are so grateful, that you listen and like us. And I would say that hopefully this season you have gained some insights into our family systems and to where we came from. For now, I don't know why my sisters are laughing so hard,
I
but
do.
thank you so much.
I know why she's because you said
So
thank you to our siblings and then you said fam. And our fam might be smaller than our siblings.
exactly. As
That's exactly what I'm
well,
talking about.
as I wrap up here, thank you to our fam for listening to the tripod. Remember that you can try us on all of the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify.
On YouTube.
If you want to catch us on YouTube, we are the Tripod Pod. So please hit subscribe to follow us and join the conversation where the Strout triplets are talking. And stay tuned for season 3.